Hello, scrappers! Are we ready for another fun fall page? Today we're going to do Autumn Blessings. So we're going to show you some techniques using the jumbo daubers and some powder puff inks. So you'll notice in your instructions, it gives you a list of all of the exact quick quotes powder puff inks that we use. Now, of course, you're welcome to substitute with various shades of those. That just gives you an idea, kind of a baseline idea of where to begin when you're choosing your colors. You will also need some jumbo daubers. I would suggest having a jumbo dauber for each color of ink you have. So you don't want to intermingle the colors on the dauber, so I would suggest for this, we're going to need two. We're going to need one for the orange and then one for the yellow. And then, of course, you need all your basic supplies. So we need a ruler, a paper trimmer, a pencil, some scissors, and your liquid and dry adhesive. If you like the 3D foam squares, I have those as well. And, of course, coffee. Coffee is a basic supply for every single kit, no matter the time of day, right? All right, we're going to go ahead and start with the left page here. So if you go ahead and open up your kit, of course, as always, your kit comes with a full page color printout of what the final page looks like. On our kits, when you see the white, that is not a white mat. That actually just shows you where the photo would go and what size the photo would be. So your kit won't contain the white mat. Again, that's just to kind of show you what the sample photo is for our particular design. Of course, you're always welcome to change that up however it best suits your photos. And then, of course, we have our detailed instructions. And at the top, we will always have all of the powder puff inks that we've used if you want to create the exact page. So I'm going to set that aside. I always start with the left side. So in this case, this is what our finished page will look like. We're going to start with this side of the page. So our base is the embossed dot paper from My Colors. Of course, we all know how much I love My Colors cardstock, but there's so many fun things you can do with this paper that's already embossed. When I scrap, my pages obviously are really, really detailed. So I try to limit kind of the amount of extra supplies we need. So you can create all of these designs by just your basic supplies and some inks. But I love the embossed look. So I love that there is a paper that already has all that done for us. So we're going to highlight some of that embossed dot here. So the first thing we're going to do, if you look at our final page, we have added some hue of color here in this upper right, upper left corner here. This is a great thing to do. Maybe you're trying to find a pattern paper and nothing in your stash kind of matches the colors that you need it to be. You can always start with a white base or a really light colored base of embossed cardstock and then layer all of these different colors of inks. And then you can create a background sheet to be whatever color you would need it to be. So since we are going with the fall colors here, we're going to use our oranges and our yellows, and we're going to use our jumbo daubers, and we're going to create this effect here in the upper left corner. So the first color we're going to use is the Sunset. So the Sunset ink. And again, if you don't have Sunset, you could do some pumpkin pie, just kind of a yellowish color, an orangish color. If you want it to be exact, I did give you some measurements. So for the sake of the sample, I'll go ahead and show you how I measured here. So underneath the title itself, you'll notice that that's where the bright orange color is. So we want that orange to be behind that title. So if you want it exact, and of course it doesn't have to be exact, but if you want it to be exactly like the layout as it is designed, I want you to measure from the top edge, measure down about 4 inches, and I just put just a little teeny dot there. And then we want our inks to go across the page about 7 inches, which would be about there. So from here to here, so in that area is where we want to add the orange ink. So again, I used Sunset. I'm just going to take my dauber and add it to the ink pad there. And then I am always going to make a circular motion and add that ink color just like that. See how it automatically really picks up the dots on that page? It makes it look like a polka dot page just by adding just that little color to those embossed dots. And then I'm going to go above it and below it with pineapple. So again, you could use Desert Sun or any kind of yellow there, but again, just going to dab the ink pad. And I'm okay if the two colors intermingle, because then it creates kind of a different hue of orange so that it kind of goes from a dark orange, a lighter orange, and a yellow. But just have fun. Whatever you're comfortable doing. Again, there's really no right or wrong. Don't worry if it's too dark. We're going to obviously put our title over it. And you never want to go directly down because we don't want a circular stamp. We just want to add the color. So I always work in a gentle circular motion. Just like that. So that will help really kind of add an accent there when we go to add our title later. All right, but the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and adhere all of the pattern papers that go across the bottom. So in your kit, we want to take out one of the striped pieces. You do have 2 of these. We only need 1 for now. We're going to run our adhesive. The other good thing about the embossed dot paper is it kind of gives you a grid line so that you know when you have little strips like this, how to line it up and make sure it's exactly straight across. So we're going to adhere this first one, it's about 1 inch from the bottom or so. And again, we're going to use all of those little embossed dots to make sure we get that piece straight. So just like so. You can probably guess what the next strip is. We have our gold pattern paper. And when I adhere that gold pattern paper, I'm going to just slightly overlap our first piece here. And again, I'm going to look at our embossed dots on the paper to make sure that I get that piece straight. All right, for the next step, I wanted the tree paper that goes across the center here, I wanted it to be the one that was on top. So we're actually going to add the 2 layers that go up here first. So you have another strip of 1/2 inch striped paper. We're going to adhere that one. And it's 6 3/4 from the very top edge. 6 3/4 from the very top edge. Now, it doesn't need to be exact, but know that it needs to be pretty close so that the rest of the papers will kind of fit in accordingly as well. Again, using my dots as my guide to make sure that that's straight across. It would look like that. For the next step, you have a piece of paper that either looks like this or it's just the solid teal. It could look more like the teal on this page. So it's all going to be a little different. So it's either going to be a plaid that has a teal color, or it's going to be a teal pattern paper. So look in your stash, and it should be one of the only strips that's this size, but it's going to be teal in color of some way. It's either going to be all teal, or it's just going to have a hint of the teal. And we're going to adhere that slightly overlapping the bottom edge there of our striped paper. Again, using our dots to make sure that it's straight across. Oops. Just like so. And then we have one more piece of paper that's going to go in the center of those, and that is our fall trees there. So you should notice that your fall trees fits kind of exactly in that space that's left in between all of those papers. And I knew that was going to happen at some point. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stick this down, and then I'm going to show you how to change the refill there in the ATG gun. All right, we're going to adhere that just across the strip like that. All right, so if you use the ATG gun, maybe you already know how to change these, but I'll show you just in case. Obviously, I do a lot of scrapbooking, so we go through a lot of these. But if you don't do it very often, it can be a little confusing. I think the big thing is just kind of remember when you take it apart, how we're going to put it back together. This little piece here is disposable, so we're going to throw it away. We're going to take off the little guide that holds all of that side down, and then all of this is trash. All right, and then we're going to put in our new one here. So our new one is going to go here. Just like that. It's going to go above the first one and under this second one here. Now to release these wheels, you have to push the handle, and that will allow the wheels to move. Just like so. And then there are divots in the machine here that you're going to put your adhesive in. You'll notice that this little piece here is sticky, so I always use that to wrap it on the wheel and then stick it in place. That way that will stay there and continue to wrap around. We're going to stick our cover back on. And then it's going to be good to go for when we're ready. All right, so we'll set that aside. You'll notice in our kits now we're including the 12 by 12 pieces of cardstock that you can cut your own mats. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the mats so that they're identical to the sample. You can hold off on this step, or you can go ahead and cut them now if you already know what your photos are. But in your paper, in your pack of goodies there, you have 2 sheets of 12 by 12 brown. So one is the embossed dot and one is the canvas brown. It doesn't matter to me which you want to use on either page. I'm going to use the canvas one for this page. And if you want to cut them identical to what we have as the sample here, all of these are the same size. So my mats would be 4 1/4 by 4 1/4, so that would fit my 4 by 4 photo. So I'm going to go ahead and cut 3 of those mats and cut them at 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. And there's the one. There's the 2. And I'm going to cut one more at 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. Alrighty, and then I'm going to go ahead and place the mats just how they are on the sample here. All right, remember we just filled our gun, so we need to run it a few times before it starts spitting out that adhesive, since it's on a brand new roll, and then we should be good to go. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and put adhesive in all three and just go ahead and lay all three down. All right, we're gonna put the first one, around there. There's no exacts here, right? And like that. And then we'll say like so. All right, so now we're ready to add our title and our embellishments and our rest of our die cuts here in the upper left corner. I'm going to go ahead and pull out the baggie of die cuts. So if you pull out the bag that has the all-time favorite title, and then we have a couple additional die cuts that are in this baggie. I'm just going to pull them out one at a time. I'm always afraid I'm going to lose the pieces. So we're going to start, I'm going to start with the pumpkin. It really doesn't matter which die cuts that you do in what order. I didn't do any inking on this pumpkin here, so I'm just going to go ahead and glue all of the pieces to our cream base. So we have our first layer there to the cream. Now we have that little silhouette piece there. Just like so. And then we have just our little teeny stem of our pumpkin. Make sure that you look for the texture side to be up. That's how you know that you have the right side up. And I'm just going to stick that little stem down in our pumpkin. So there's our little pumpkin die cut there. Next we have this leaf here. So it also has the two different layers. And again, I didn't actually ink these either. So we're just going to adhere that lighter silhouette, that overlay there. We're going to adhere that directly onto the darker green base. Like so. And they should kind of line up there perfectly. All right, our white die cut is actually just a single layer, so there's nothing we need to do to it. We have our final leaf, and I did ink this leaf if you would like to do that. You can do it one of two ways. I did use the palm tree. You can ink it along just the edge. You could go just along the right edge, or you could go all the way around these top edges. Or you could go down the center and kind of pick up those stems, that negative space in the middle. Just be creative, whichever way you prefer. I'm just going to go ahead and go on the right side of these die cuts. My ink pad is about gone, so I'm going to push pretty hard here. Just like that. And then we'll add this top layer to our darker green base. Like so. All right, one more die cut piece that we need to put together. As we put that aside, last little piece here. We have that all-time favorite. You could also say it looks like fall-time favorite, right? That F is kind of large, so it looks like it could go with both of those words. So we could say this is fall-time favorites. Though I have to tell you, I'm really a summer gal. Summer is my all-time favorite. All right, so we need to adhere all the layers of our fall time favorite there. So we have our lighter brown that we're going to adhere first. You don't have to hit every single little piece with adhesive. It's gonna stay down. So as long as you do the kind of a spot all down, that you should be fine there. You will notice as well that we pre-adhered that itty bitty little teal heart. It's one of those that would be so easy to get lost in a baggie. It's so tiny. All right, and our final layer here. Teal really isn't a fall color, right? But that's okay. Why do we have to think inside of that box? I liked the contrast of the teal with the oranges and the browns. That contrasting color to me is what really makes the page really, really pop. All right. There we go, just like that. So now that we have all of our die cuts together, we can go ahead and add them to this upper left corner. Now, of course, it's going to depend exactly how your photos are, but regardless of how many, you can go ahead and put your title up here. You could always put your photos across here. It just, again, depends on how many photos that you would want to add to this particular page. I'm going to add my white one first. Now again, if you're worried about where your photos are going to go, I would just run my adhesive just down the stem of the white, just down the center. That way your photos would be able to slip underneath at any point if you needed them to. I'm going to get my title out of the way here. I'm going to lift that one up, and then I'm going to stick that about there or so. But again, if you only put adhesive down the center stem, that way all of these would still be loose in case you needed to move your photos around and slip them underneath. All right, next I'm going to do our fall time favorite title. Again, I am no need to be really generous there with our adhesive. Our page protector is going to keep that in place. I'm going to go just a little higher there, just say like that. All right. As I'm layering the top ones here, there are some, if you look at the final page, there are some embellishments that are kind of slipped underneath some of these die cuts. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out our embellishment pack. And again, if you did our last fall page, we're using that same My Mind's Eye One Fine Day collection, which is really made to be summer, spring, beach kind of feel. But again, why? Why does it have to be that? I love taking Christmas paper and turning it into birthday, even if your birthday's in March, you know? I love to push my creativity that way. You know, I always say if you were to go run a marathon, you wouldn't wake up and say, hey, I'm going to run a marathon this weekend. I am just going to go out there and do it. Chances are you would practice every day and run a little more. You'd start maybe at 1 mile or 2 miles and kind of work your way all the way to that marathon, right? And by the time you get to that marathon, you're prepared and your body is ready for it. It's the same thing with creativity. You need to push yourself just a little bit every day. So you're going to get stuck in a rut and you're going to be stuck at that 5 mile mark and you think I just can't do 6 miles. But if you make your brain think a little harder, a little outside of the box, just a few extra minutes every day, you will see that all of a sudden you're at the grocery store and you're like, oh, that Doritos bag would make a really cute scrapbook page. You'll start seeing the inspiration because you've trained your brain to think creatively. It's just the exact same principles as physically working out as it is mentally working out. So in this packet, we have 2 sets of embellishments here. These are chipboard elements, so you're going to need to add adhesive to the bottom of them. But for this, I'm going to use this really large teal flower here. And then I'm also going to use on this other sheet, I'm going to use this little one here. So we'll set the rest of those aside. There's a little bit of adhesive on these. I really wouldn't trust that they would stay. I would go ahead and add a little additional adhesive. So I'm going to place the adhesive on my leaves and on my 2 chipboard elements. I'm not quite going to put it on the pumpkin yet, but I am going to use the pumpkin kind of as a guide. That's going to eventually go there. So we want this leaf poking around the left side. We have this leaf here kind of poking out the right side. And then I have this large flower kind of tucked underneath there, like so. And then we have our yellow one that's going to go kind of in there. When it came to the pumpkin, I did use the 3D foam squares, if you would like to pop that just a little off the page. And I am always crazy generous when it comes to the foam squares. Like so. Now we don't necessarily need to take them all off. It would, as long as you got the majority of them, this is going to stick down just fine. It doesn't necessarily need every one of them taken off. So I'm going to skip those smaller ones. And then I'm going to add our pumpkin right there, like so. Gorgeous! Don't you love it? All right, just a few more of those chipboard elements and we will complete this page here. So we're going to pull the yes off of this elements page here. Just like so. We need the circle off of this one. And then I'm going to use the 2 phrases here. I'm going to use grateful. And then it's a great day for living. So we're going to go ahead and adhere the 4 of those to complete this page. Again, I wouldn't, even if they are a little, if there's a little bit of adhesive, I would go ahead and just add some extra just to make sure that they permanently stick there. So I'm going to embellish our white vine. Then we have our yes. I'm going to pop out the center of the Y there. Add a little bit of adhesive. Just like so. All right. It is always a great day for living, right? Even in 2020. And our very last one. Grateful for another day. Alrighty, and there we go. You finished page 1. All All right, we're gonna put that one aside, and now we're gonna go to page 2. So, of course, our final page looks like this here. We're going to go ahead and use that same embossed tan paper that we used on the first sheet, and we're kind of going to do the same technique here where we're really going to highlight the dots that are embossed on that page. So from your packet of goodies, pull out that second sheet of the tan embossed dot. And again, with our dauber and those same inks there, I'm going to take my sunset. I'm going to get that dauber pretty wet. And then I'm going to lightly go here. And a lot of this is going to be covered, so we really only need to go along the outer edge. Kind of like so. Again, there's no like exact science to this. And as always, it is a chalking ink, which means it's going to dry just a tad lighter. So don't worry if it looks really dark as you start here. Because if you notice, mine looks pretty dark, right? But look, by the time it's all done, we finished our techniques, it really lightens up there over time. So with the pineapple, I'm going to go up the right edge here, like so. And then I'm going to go just along the bottom edge here. And then again, I love how these two colors mix. So I'm going to go in with my yellow and really kind of blend in that orange color. Doesn't that look like the fall foliage right there? I just love how it really picks up those polka dots and how it just adds that visual interest there down in the corner. All right, once you have all of the inking complete, the next thing we're going to do is add our large leaf pattern paper circle. And we also have our overlay here. If you haven't seen them, we've added overlays to the products that we offer here at The-Whole-Kit-N-Kaboodle. This is actually a new one that's going to be released here really soon, but we do have a few others that are available on our website currently, so be sure to check those out. But we're going to adhere so that this completed circle here is about centered in the page. So I always kind of lay the two together first, because we have the heart that sticks out over here. So we don't want to just adhere this in the center, because then our heart would stick off the edge. So I just use that overlay as my guide. So I know it's going to be about right there. And what I always do, don't chuckle, okay, is I always put my ink pads so that they're my guides. So now when I remove this to put adhesive on the back, I know exactly where it's going to go again. So just like that, I'm going to take my circle and run adhesive all along the back. It's a random pattern. There is no up or down, so it doesn't exactly matter how you have that. And then I'm going to just put that circle back in place. And just using my little cheat sheet there, our guides helped us know where to put that down. And now we can go ahead and put our overlay on top. Now, if you think you might slip your photos underneath a portion of the overlay at some point, you don't need to put adhesive along this edge. I'm just going to put just a little dab just so that it sticks down. And then we're going to add our overlay just like so. All right, in order to emphasize some of these heart shapes here, in your die cut packet of goodies, you do have some hearts that are pre-cut. So we have the large teal, and then we have the two smaller teals. And I'm going to adhere them just like so. So I wanted to show you this. See how this heart and this heart aren't identical in shape. So say you purchased this overlay and you wanted to put a pattern paper heart in the center just like this. It's okay if the hearts aren't identical. This is just a heart we have cut out on the Cricut and made it kind of fit in the space. We did our measurements and it fits in. It's okay that it's not exact. The border's a little thicker on here and it looks just fine. If you're worried or want it to be a perfect mate for this, you would just take this overlay, lay it on your desired paper, and then trace with a pencil along the outside of this heart shape, and then cut just about 1/4 or 1/8 of an inch inside that line, just to have that little bit of white border showing all the way around. So if you wanted it to be exactly the shape of the overlay, you could do it like that, or you could be like us and just make that shape work. See what a difference it makes when we add the teal hearts. It really makes the teals and even the greens in this paper really pop off the page. So it just by adding just an additional pop of color there, it really brings this to life on that particular pattern paper. And on these teals here, this particular teal pattern paper is from a birthday collection. This particular teal pattern here is from a summer collection. So just remember, even though we're doing a fall page, does not mean you just have to go to the fall section of your stash or scrapbook store. We can make all of those work, right? All right, so now that we have our pattern paper hearts all here and all ready to go, I'm going to go ahead and start with the bottom of our title here. That way I know where my photo mats go. So in your packet of goodies, you have an orange strip, and we need to cut that orange strip down. So that orange needs to be 8 3/4. So again, you have these measurements in your directions, but that's 8 3/4. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut that piece down to 8 3/4. And then I'm going to do what's called banner cut. So I'm just going to snip that triangular shape out of both ends. Okay, if it's not exactly perfect, we're just going to snip them like so. And that's going to rest along the bottom here like this. I'm going to go ahead and adhere that piece down. So if you notice the positioning of that, I want to be able to see a little bit of the white of the circle at the bottom, and that our banner cut here should kind of align with that circular side there of that overlay, just like so. I will eventually slip a little leaf underneath this corner, so just make sure that your adhesive isn't so strong in this corner that you couldn't stick it underneath. And if it already is, it's okay, we can just stick the leaf on top there. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and put the title down again, so that way I know exactly how my photos can go. So in our little bag of tricks, our little Mary Poppins bag here, I'm going to pull out everything for the title. I always lay it out first to make sure the spacing is where I want it. So if our autumns would go like that. And like so. We are going to add a sticker element over on the side here. So it is, if you notice, a slightly left of center. But then we can go ahead and put all of the pieces of our title down. All right, just a little teeny dab there. Like so, and then of course all of those letters are connected. Run just a little bit of adhesive. like so. And we have more than one blessing, right? Gosh, I hope we all have more than one blessing. All right. So just like so. And then I'm going to go ahead and put our autumn title down. Again, just kind of randomly dotting it here and there. About like that. If you're worried about where your photos are going to go, you can always leave this unadhered. That way you know you could slip some photos underneath if you needed to and still have your title intact. We're going to go ahead and finish out this corner here while we're down there. So we need to pull out that appropriate leaf die cut. It looks like that. And again, we are going to go ahead and ink this here. Using that palm tree again. Just kind of any shade of darker green would work, or bright green. Because we have teal in this page, you could also highlight this with a teal shade as well, would work. And then we'll attach this layer here. To our leaf. All right, I'm going to use my dry adhesive along the back. And I'm going to just slip that underneath there. If you notice, I am using this stem here, this direct line of the leaf, and I'm going to follow the curve of our circular overlay here. So I am going to lay it so that the stem follows the direction of that curve. And that's exactly how I know where it goes. Back on our chipboard elements here, we are going to use this flower from this sheet. So if you want to pop that one off, you'll notice when we're all done, you're going to have a ton of extras of these. And again, I just want to make sure I have enough adhesive here. And I'm going to add that just to the right of my title. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and cut my photo mats. Obviously, you can wait and do these, but if you want them just like the sample, I'm going to use our brown embossed dot paper. And if you look at our sample here, my photos are 3.5 by 5. We always add 1/4 inch. So these two photo mats would be 3 3/4 by 5 1/4. So if you wanted exact, they would be 3 3/4 by 5 1/4. So I'm going to cut my 5 1/4 mat here first. And then I'm going to cut my 3 3/4. If you want to be able to see some of the embossed dot around your photo mat, you would add a 1/2 inch. So you could make, if you notice here, that the mats on this photo are a little thicker than the mats were on our first side. So if you look at the difference here, this is a little thicker than this one here. So it's just whatever your preference is. So for this exact example, I added a 1/2 inch instead of adding a 1/4 inch. Again, it's whatever fits your photos, whatever fits your style. It's all gonna work. They never see my sample next to your sample, so there'll never be any comparison, right? So don't compare yourself, because no one else is gonna ever make that comparison. All right, so I'm going to add those just like that. All right, our final bits here, we have all of the embellishments that are going to go along this top part here. So back to our little bag of goodies. I'm going to save the owl for last. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out our pumpkin. And we have a little leaf. We have the stem of our pumpkin here. And then we have an orange leaf. Our owl has a lot of pieces, so I'm going to go ahead and reserve them for now and work on those last. On the orange leaf, the one that's just a single layer here, I used the barn board, and I'm going to go just along that right edge there and ink our orange leaf. And then for these two die cuts, I'm just not going to do any ink and just adhere them just as they are. So we're going to use the cream as our base. Going to add that orange layer there. And another orange layer. Just like so. They should line up perfectly. Get rid of some of that excess adhesive there. All right, and now we have our little tiny stem, always looking for the canvas side. And we'll add our stem to our pumpkin like that. And then we have our two greens of our leaf there. So we're going to add some adhesive again. Look for the canvas side. We know that's right side up. We're going to flip it over and just add just a little dab of adhesive. Adding those two layers together like so. All right. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and add all three of these layers to my page. Man, I shed like a doggy. Get rid of that hair there. And just run just a little bit of adhesive along the back of all of those. All right, so our leaf is kind of here way up in the upper right corner. We have our pumpkin and we have our leaf here. I want to be able to see that there's some hearts under here, so I want to make sure that I don't totally cover all of those hearts. So about like so. All right, so for our owl, now there is a lot of pieces to this owl. I'm going to set this aside here so we can see how all of these layers go together. So just be really careful as you're pulling out this piece, all these pieces. There is a little teeny little beak there. You might even think it's just a speck of lint. It's so super tiny. So we just want to be super careful as we're pulling that out. All right, so the first thing we have here is we have our cream layer. I did ink that cream layer. I inked it with a tiramisu. So I went along the top of the ears there and just a little on the inside of his belly. Really light there on the inside of his belly. Like so. So we're going to add that layer to our brown. I'm going to line up the ears there at the top. Just like so. We have the black portion of his eyes, and you're going to see exactly where those fill in. And then we have our white layer. Again, always looking for our canvas side so we know which side is the up. Just like so. Make sure that that divot matches where our little beak is going to go in the end. We're going to go ahead and add that little tiny nose. If for some reason this gets lost somewhere on your floor, you could always just use an orange enamel dot in there too. I realize it's a different shape, but I think it would work just fine. Alrighty, now we have our 2 wings. And I am going to ink the wings as well. So I have some mahogany here. And I am going to just go, the portion of the wing that would touch the belly is where I'm going to add the ink. So on this side, again, it's following the curve. That's what's going to touch the belly of our owl. All right, one more wing. And once we have all those little pieces down, I'm going to adhere him to his orange base so that we can see his little feet that poke down at the bottom. Just like so. Now he's going to be ready to add to our page. I did use the 3D foam squares if you want to give him a little lift. Always being extra generous. All right, and then I'm just going to peel them off the big ones. Just like so. And then kind of add him here in our upper right corner, just like that. We have 2 more of those little chipboard embellishments that we added. So we need that teal flower. And we need, there should be a tiny yellow flower. We're going to use that. And that's all we use. So you have like tons and tons of extras that you can use on many future other pages. So again, I'm going to add a little bit of adhesive. Flip him around there so that he fits right inside that little pocket. All right, a little bit of adhesive on this one. And if you notice, there is a portion cut out of this flower that perfectly matches the shape of his ear. So I just followed the exact proportions there so that divot in the flower looks like it was tailor-made to fit that portion of his left ear. Just perfectly. And there you have it. We now have both of our completed fall time favorite pages.